Did you know that successful people don't really fail? What? How is that possible? It's because they turn their failures into learning opportunities. We know this, but why is it that when it comes to our children, we have such a different approach? A child is a person who grows and develops, and that growth is a process. For a child, there is no other way to learn unless he makes many mistakes. Every parent wants to see his child become a responsible, intelligent, hard-working person, the type of person where it's pleasant to be in his company. How does a parent begin to raise such a person? From a simple but necessary understanding. Not only can a child make mistakes, but he must make mistakes. It's his main job and occupation. And what is our role as parents? To provide a secure environment for a child to learn from his mistakes. First, anticipate your child's mistakes. Don't be surprised. Every day we have two options. The first is to anticipate these mistakes, to see them as new opportunities, to use the mistakes as training lessons. Or the second option, to be busy with other things, lose our temper or patience when the child makes mistakes and doesn't act in the way we've taught him. The results of the second option are that at the age of 18 or older, a person leaves the house trained to be afraid of people in positions of authority in their life, trained to lie, to hide his mistakes, to blame another person for his mistakes. He will also know how to copy the behavior he observed and experienced all these years: shouting, manipulating, threatening, and getting angry. And saddest of all, he will not learn to be a responsible person. He will still be a child, but in an adult's body. The first option brings very different results. He will know how to do what his parents taught him to do, to ask the right questions, make the right decisions, and when he makes mistakes, as he will do for the rest of his life, know how to do things differently next time. He will learn and remain at peace with himself and with his environment. How do we choose the first option? What shall we do? First of all, we should not wait until they are 12 or 13 to begin this training. If we start at that age, the training will be much more difficult. We need to begin at a very young and tender age, which is much more appropriate for learning. We need to take advantage of situations that are much simpler than the more difficult situations which await them in their adults' lives. The first step is to show that we care. How do we, even as adults, know that someone cares about us? By their investment of time. Someone who cares stops everything and gives their time and attention. Without it, there is no point in continuing to talk. Parenting nowadays is done along the way, in abnormal run, because of the pace of lives we have chosen in the modern culture. Parents run after things that are sometimes really crucial and necessary, but they neglect to set priorities. Stop and ask yourself, what are the most important things for me at this stage of my life? What are my priorities? As I set priorities, I will also give the quantity time accordingly. If, after my personal searching of my heart, I come to the conclusion that parenting is in the second place in the ladder of my priorities, definitely after the marriage, which is in first place, then I must make the decision to stop the running, slow the pace, and invest in my children. Such a decision will not come easily, but from a deep understanding, a conviction that this is the right thing. As a result, we will experience joy that we are doing what is so important. I must also recognize that while this investment will often be difficult in the beginning, the pleasant times and joy will come as the children progress in training. It is this way with any kind of intense training. What is unbearable and difficult at first will be rewarded later. So it is with parenting. It's daily, very difficult training in the beginning, because a child learns by making mistakes and learning, making more mistakes and more learning more and making mistakes again. But when he gets it and learns new concepts and skills, these lessons will belong to him and serve him all his life. Unlike in our banks, the deposits of our time into our children's lives gains a lot of interest over time. Huge interest that snowballs. When he reaches school age, parenting will be much easier because you trained the child to make the right decisions, to show responsibility, to obey the authorities properly. And when a teenager reaches adolescence, then instead of ineffective sanctions, shouting, threats, and sleepless nights, you will just rejoice together because the young person will be confident, pleasant, caring, honest, and happy. Why? Because since they were very, very young, we have taught them that it's what is true and false, what is right and wrong, what are the consequences of a bad choice, how to do differently next time. We have taught them to learn from their mistakes. We have created an environment that allows for faults, for selfishness, for mistakes. We have not taught them that it's okay to behave that way. Definitely not, quite the opposite. But the parents of this child expected and anticipated failures. And these parents knew how to treat them without screaming, without anger, without being shocked or surprised, but by giving to child the right tools, listening and understanding, asking the right and effective questions, offering a variety of alternative options to the child within boundaries that are safe, stable, and not scary and threatening. Think of how army commanders prepare for war. An entire army trains every day to be ready for the situation where the enemy arrives and attacks. And when it comes down to it, they are sure that the soldiers have the tools, wisdom, and abilities to deal with this enemy. The enemy, sin, rebellion, selfishness, ignorance, jealousy, temptation of any kind will come. Parents have no doubt about it, and so they train, take care to listen and teach, and provide coping tools. We know the enemy is ever present. So, parents, let's get to work.